Remember when your grandma watched the member drive on PBS and joined so she could get that sweet Peter, Paul, and Mary concert on VHS? Now you can do the same thing with the Pop Culture Preservation Society. Each of our episodes is created with the help of listeners like you, and you can become a financial supporter of the PCPS over on patreon.com to help us pay the bills and keep doing what we love. To show our appreciation, we'll send you welcome gifts and give you access to bonus content, like video recordings of our episodes, after the episode discussions, and blooper reels from the cutting room floor. Just go to patreon.com, Patreon, type Pop Culture Preservation Society into the search bubble, and choose the level of support that feels right for you. And if you're not able to contribute at this time, remember that listening is the most important form of support you could ever give. Thank you.
Welcome to another Encore episode week. It's no surprise that I, particularly, am ecstatic about this week's Encore, you guys. One, because of the subject matter, and two, because it's a conversation I just loved having with one of our favorite Gen X little sisters, Lori, who hosts the Untitled GenX Podcast, which I think of as an 80s kid companion to the PCPS, where we tend to focus more on 70s kid topics. Lori tackles the mid to late 80s.
Right. They're just a little bit younger than us. So they do deep dives on things that we might have missed because we were in college and going to parties, or in college and going to parties.
That's correct.
They've done things like 90210, The Wonder Years, The Hills, Punky Brewster. But they also do plenty of things that all Gen Xers would relate to, like Steel Magnolias, which was featured with Nina Badson, who is the leader of our writing group. She's the reason that we all came together. They've done David Bowie. They've done Dead Poets Society. So lots of things that are of interest to us also.
And this conversation devoted to Duran Duran's RIO album with Michelle. And we were happy to share Michelle with Lori last year, if only to get her to shut up about wanting to do a Duran Duran episode.
Sorry, not
but
sorry.
You guys, no, that's okay, because as usual, she finally wore us down. And that is going to change next season when Michelle gets her wish and the PCPS devotes an episode to the Fab Five.
Oh my God. I feel like there should be right now like confetti cannons going off
right.
and angels
I
singing.
thought that was going to happen.
You guys, I cannot wait. Actually, I've already written the episode. I think I had written it in 1983. But what I love about this conversation that you're about to hear, the one I had with Lori, is that since she is a late 70s baby, she wasn't familiar at all with Duran Duran. Like, she thought it was two guys named Duran and Duran. You'll hear that, yeah. And once I got past that horrifying admission, I was more than happy to do my best to make her a member of Team Duranie. And I did. While we focused mostly on the songs from the RIO album, we chat about their appeal because, I mean, how can you not? I share some fun stories from my days of infatuation yesterday. And we tackle the stories behind the songs and videos from that incredible 1982 album. You know, that's where you're getting the videos and the videos, especially from like RIO and Hungry Like the Wolf. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Save a Prayer. There's so many, and we cover them. I mean, that's an album, right, you guys?
Her name is Rio and she dances on the sand.
For me, the RIO album was 100% about MTV. So I know these songs from the videos themselves. I don't even think of RIO as an album. I think about it as a collection of videos. But that also means that I only know Hungry Like the Wolf, Save a Prayer, and RIO.
But it's important. And you know what's actually funny, Kristen and listeners? When I said I've already written this episode, I'm not kidding. And Kristen, you are actually tackling the MTV Duran Duran connection. So this is great. Okay. This is perfect.
In my wheelhouse.
It's almost like I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to say, I love this episode that you did with Lori because it's kind of a primer for me, kind of Duran Duran 101, because like I told Michelle the other day, if she said, well, what's your favorite song off the RIO album? I'd say, RIO, because I don't know that I could have named the songs. And something I'm not good at, and I'll tell you right now, I know words to songs and I know songs, but if you ask me who sings them, I don't always know that. So I don't even know if you said Hungry Like the Wolf to me.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Okay. Well, that's why this episode is so good because it really, like I said, is a primer for me. And I know that I have to come to love Duran Duran because otherwise there might just be two people co-hosting this podcast in the future.
She's going to get security.
No,
Yes.
that's not true. All are welcome here. All are welcome here. And I just want to try my best, but I totally get it. I mean, I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So there you go. We all have our
Okay, we have to end the episode right now.
Gosh, how can you be Gen X and not be a huge Bruce Springsteen fan? I don't know. But yes, it just goes to show what? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Who said that?
Who said that?
I don't know if that was picked up on the microphone. I'm going to rewind. Kristen, what did you say louder for the people in the back?
I have a great deal of respect.
That's
Same.
not what you
Bruce
said.
Same.
Okay, that's not what you said into the microphone.
But I don't necessarily enjoy his music. But I respect
Yeah,
him.
same,
And I
same.
understand why people like him.
Oh, I am on board with that. That's how I feel too. Well, you know what
accept
this means,
everyone
listeners? It means that in maybe
Right.
season 10, Carolyn is going to be in charge of a Bruce Springsteen episode. That's what it means. Or I shouldn't say season 10. Let's say since I'm going to make her wait like I had to wait. Season
20.
In season 20, we'll be doing a Bruce Springsteen
And
episode.
that assures our longevity.
So the Untitled Gen X Podcast is available wherever you get podcasts and can be found on Instagram at the Untitled Gen X Podcast. And we'll share all the links in this week's Weekly Reader.
Yeah, we will, because like I said earlier, we really consider that to be our little sister podcast and just adore Lori and think it's a great podcast. So it's one that I actually listen to like just when I'm in my car. I'm like, what's Lori talking about this week? So we hope you guys will tune into her podcast as well. So right now, we want you to grab a snack and settle in because you guys, this is a deep dive. And if you're a Duranie, or even if you're not, get ready to have all the feels as you listen to this fun and informative episode of the Untitled Gen X Podcast.
Her name is RIO and she dances.
I'm coming to this conversation with feelings.
I thought Duran Duran was two dudes. Duran Duran.
Duran Duran were men. And that made it even all the more intriguing.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Gen X Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the pop culture that raised us. I'm Lori, a writer and pop culture lover who's thrilled to welcome Michelle Newman to fangirl over Wild Boys' Duran Duran and their new wave sophomore triumph, 1982's RIO. But before we get into the cherry ice cream smile of it all, I'd like to tell you a little about my pop culture podcast sister, Michelle Newman. Michelle is one of the hosts and producers of the Pop Culture Preservation Society, a podcast dedicated to preserving the pop culture nuggets of our Gen X childhoods. In addition to writing for a variety of online publications, she also spent 8 years writing about her life on her blog, You're My Favorite Today. Michelle is a loving wife and mom who happily fills her days sharing the joy of our shared Gen X memories on Pop Culture Preservation Society social media and in the hilarious conversations she has with her sister workwives on her podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Michelle.
Thank you, Lori. I'm so excited to be here and to finally see you and put a face to your lovely voice and feel like you're our little sister.
I know. I feel that way too. I feel like you ladies are like my podcast big sisters.
Right. That's what I think right away when we found your podcast was about when we started ours too.
Yes.
And we were kind of looking around at other Gen X podcasts and found yours right away and listened to it, loved it. And then I think we got in touch. And when you told us the Gen X years you were born, we were like, oh my gosh, you could be our little sister. Because I'm a little older than you, but I think it's what? Are you 70? When were you
I'm
born?
76.
Okay. So I'm 69. So I'm 7. So that's not too bad. I truly could be your big sister.
Absolutely. And I love your guys' podcast so much. I mean,
Thank you.
Honestly, Carolyn, Kristen, you're the dynamic trio, truly. And I love the stuff you guys cover. I mean, obviously it's all Gen X pop culture, but some of the stuff is a little earlier than what I traditionally cover, but it's stuff that's so near and dear to my heart. Bee Gees, Little House, all the Judy Blume stuff, Solid Gold, Schoolhouse Rock, Electric Company. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Well, there's so much stuff. They say Gen X is technically 1965 to 1980. And the three of us who host the Pop Culture Preservation Society are born 1965. So right at the beginning, 1968 and 1969. So a lot of the stuff we cover is more based on a 70s childhood, but I was only about 10 turning 11 in 1980. So a lot of the stuff that we haven't really even dipped our toe into the 80s yet. We will one day, but the stuff, that's why I loved your podcast and still love your podcast so much, because you then kind of pick up where we kind of leave off, and you cover a lot of the stuff that, especially for me, I was still really feeling, because I am definitely a 70s child, but I straddle that line. I mean, I am also definitely an 80s child because I was only in 5th grade in 1980.
I often think, God, it would have been cool to be a teenager in the 80s. I was 14 in 1990. So I started high school in 1990. So I was really a kid in the 80s, but my musical taste is so 70s. Like I live and breathe 70s music. It is my favorite to this day.
It truly is amazing.
I mean, you guys and the yacht rock of it all. I love it.
Yeah. The 70s music just brings out all the feelings for us.
Doesn't it?
For sure. But I also, having said that, I'm also very much an 80s pop girl.
Yes.
So I love both,
Well, when we were talking about what we should cover and you mentioned Duran Duran, I was secretly wondering if Carolyn and Kristen were going to be like, Michelle, we wanted to cover those sexy dudes. Like, why are you giving this to the Untitled GenX podcast?
No, I will give you a little secret. So I have been for, a year kind of not asking, but, suggesting, how about Duran Duran? How about Duran Duran? And Carolyn and Kristen. Well, Carolyn, because she's born in 1965, I don't think she really caught the Duran Duran wave. And Kristen, for one reason or another, I think she thinks they're fine, but not to the extent and the level that I had the Duran Duran worship. So it's one of those things that I think we have so many topics to cover the list is never ending. And it's been like, we'll do it one day. We'll do it one day. And so when you and I spoke and you said, you want to come on and talk about Duran Duran? I was like, oh, hell yeah. No, Carolyn and Kristen are thrilled. They are so excited for me to be on here. I think getting Duran Duran a little bit out of my system, and we'll do it one day, but you know what? We'll do it differently. And yeah, don't worry. I won't let them off the hook, but yeah.
I've gotten a lot of requests to do Duran Duran.
Really?
I have.
I'm so excited.
I have to be honest. I'm not really a fan.
I know.
I don't actually know why that is. So this album, of course, came out in 1982. It's not like I wasn't a fan of early 80s music either. So I don't really know what happened. In my experience, it seems like my peers who love Duran Duran had older siblings who listened to them. And so they were introduced to it early, whereas I was just sort of familiar with the singles. I was too young to really crush on the boys.
Oh, absolutely. You know, 5.
And so I don't know. It was just sort of like, Duran Duran.
You know what? I can see that though, because if you didn't really catch the wave when it was actually happening, once you got 13, 14 years old, there were other boy bands or other bands.
Like it was Bon Jovi.
But that's the way I feel about, on our podcast, when we're talking about 70s childhood things and we're talking about maybe the Bee Gees and maybe Carolyn is saying, oh, how, she crushed on them or whatever. I didn't have that experience because I was too young. I definitely love their music and it's really important to me, but I don't have any memories. It wasn't quite the same. It didn't hit the same.
Right.
So I'm going to let you off the hook by saying that's what I feel like it was for you. It was your age.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with, the quality of their music or
not at all.
The handsomeness of their faces.
Not at all.
It has everything to do with that. And by the end of this conversation, you are going to be on Spotify listening to This is Duran Duran or
I have no doubt.
I'll just send you my own personally curated Duran Duran playlist, which is basically almost all their songs, but I'll send you a text.
You're going to make a fangirl out of me yet.
Okay.
I know it, Michelle. And you guys can't see Michelle, but she is wearing a Duran Duran pin, like an OG Duran Duran pin
It's from my jean jacket.
for your jean jacket. You
Mhm.
sent me a picture of your ticket stub to see Duran Duran. They were your first ever concert. This was a show on February 2nd, 1984. I'm looking at the ticket stub right now. Tell me about that experience.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, before I tell you about that, can I just offer a little bit of a disclaimer to your listeners?
Yes.
Because I just wanted to, those of you listening, if you are a Duran Duran fan and hoping that I'm going to be delving into the brilliance of their musicianship or the nuances of the type of music as it relates to the era or all this other kind of music-y stuff, I'm going to disappoint you.
The pressure is great, right?
Yes. I'm coming to this conversation with feelings.
Okay.
Like strong feelings that have stayed with me for 4 decades and with close to zero musical knowledge, just so everyone knows. And also I know that there's probably Duran Duran fans listening who will disagree with me about some things. And that's okay because we can all love them for different reasons and have different opinions.
Sure.
So I hope you don't get upset just because mine are right. But to tell you about the concert, I have to back up just a little bit because I'll be honest, and I don't think that it was their music that made me a fan at first. Obviously, I think they were just really lovely to look at. And there's British boys.
Beautiful, beautiful British boys.
Yes. And, but then of course I became obsessed with the music as I was with looking at them. One thing that's a little different though is Duran Duran, when they really came onto my radar, they were men. Like I was about 13, I'm going to say almost 14, maybe, when I started really, my infatuation started. Simon, who, as you'll hear, as the conversation keeps going, Simon was mine. Like my girlfriends and I, we each claimed one. We chose and we couldn't choose the same one. We all played Duran Duran wives. And we actually wrote fantasy letters to each other, like our notes in school. Like I would write to my friend Lisa, who was married to John Taylor, and it would be like, oh, do you want to come over tonight? Like the boys are on the road. So you could come over, and I'm inviting Kristen over because Kristen was married to Nick. And then you would sign it Michelle Laban.
It's sort of like early fan fiction. I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were, because we're 13-year-old girls, but Simon at the time was 24. So it's not like the kids today, my girls crushed on, One Direction or Jonas Brothers.
Yeah.
They were almost their age mates, maybe only a couple years older than they were. I mean, Duran Duran were men. And that made it even all the more intriguing, titillating, enticing.
They knew some shit, Michelle.
Yeah. And they were just like worldly. Oh, and the British accents. And it was a time, Lori. It was a time. So when RIO was released, they had re-released Duran Duran, their original,
the debut album,
debut album. And so in my memory, all those songs from their debut album in RIO are mushed together as one album for me. I don't have a memory of and I remember when the RIO came out,
right? All
those songs to me. And these are all coming on my radar in about early 1983, probably. So flash forward to 1984, February, a Sing Blue Silver concert. It's in Seattle, Washington. We lived in a little town called Ridgefield, Washington. This is a general admission concert. As you can see from my ticket stub, it was $13.50.
Oh,
it was.
Can you imagine?
So we've had about a year now of our devotion. And I mean, when I say devotion, I mean, it was obsession, infatuation. It was throw yourself into this 100%. Obviously we were their wives. I mean, we role played.
Did you have the posters on your wall?
Oh, posters everywhere. Yeah. It was almost like a decoupage. It was so many. Not just posters, Lori. I would cut out quotes, or I would write quotes in fancy handwriting and script. And I still remember one to this day that I had on my wall. And it was a quote from Simon Laban. And he said, "If we build our success on a tissue ladder of lies and deception and images, something like will fall." That part I don't remember. "But if we're honest, and we are honest, we can stand on the ground we've created with that honesty." So move on. Now, for some reason, that quote, which is not really like that profound or anything, struck like
Right,
14-year-old me. I had it written in like curly cued and I saw it every day. It was on my bathroom mirror. So that's why I still remember most of it. But general admission. So we were going to have to like leave at the crack of dawn. Seattle was a 3-hour drive. So there was a group of us. I think I sent you the picture.
You
Me
did.
and my 3 of my best girlfriends, other wives, of course, of the
Duran
band.
Duran wives. Mhm.
The band, yeah. And then my sister, who was a senior in high school at the time, and her friends, we were all going to go. Well, all of us happened to be cheerleaders, and our moms had all okayed that we could be taken out of school the day of the concert. It was a school day. They were all going to just call us in sick. Well, the principal got wind of this and he called us all in like 2 days before. And he said, I hear there's a concert you girls are going to. And I want you to know that if you're not back at school the next day, when the bell rings, you're benched. Like you cannot cheer at the game. Well, we all kind of thought, oh, all right, who cares? However, our entire high school had not quite 400 people in it. We were the only cheerleaders. Like we had like 3 cheerleaders.
No.
So for some reason, we still got to be absent. I think because our moms like called us in sick and I guess they couldn't argue with that. I don't know. We drove up, we got there at the crack of dawn. We waited on the concrete, like outside, I think it was like a chain link fence for something like 10 hours or so just to wait. I'll just never forget the doors opening because it was an arena,
Yeah.
and rushing in. And we were at the front of the line enough that when we rushed in, we could get down on the floor and we were pretty close to the stage and people were just running in behind us. And so we're these little 14-year-old girls. And I started panicking a little bit because I was afraid I was going to get like crushed or something like that. Or I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to see over. So one of my friends and I ran up to a seat that wasn't that far up. So we ended up sitting, up on the bleachers, and it opens with the strains of these music from a song called Tiger, Tiger. And I'll never forget the way I felt when you heard that. And I had never been to a concert before this big. So I was unfamiliar with like the video screen, and they had that technology, shockingly, in 1984. And Tiger, Tiger starts and the entire place is screaming. I can hear it in my head right now. My friend Kristen and I, we hugged each other and were screaming and crying like we were watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Like nobody was even out yet. Then all of a sudden, Tiger, Tiger, it's just instrumental. People listening will know. And then all of a sudden you just hear from the black stage, you see nothing. And all you hear is, please, please tell me now. Please. And we lost it. I mean, sobbing so hard, we couldn't see. And then the lights, I'm covered in goosebumps right now. The lights came up and there they were, and they were all wearing white. But yet, oh my God, Lori, I feel like I'm going to cry just remembering it. It was one of the most like magical experiences of my life. Like that sounds ridiculous, but it was.
It doesn't. When you really, really love a musician or a band, and especially if you're new to the concert experience, it is completely transformative. It changes your life. It's such a big moment. This is why I have loved so much bringing my kids to concerts from a young age.
Yes.
And when we started doing it, people were like, really? You're going to bring your kids? I'm like, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
This is an experience kids need to have.
My older daughter's 26. And when she was little, we went to that coveted, the very first Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus concert that nobody could get tickets to, because I wanted to raise a fangirl,
of course,
that I could be proud of. And so, yes, I took her to Hilary Duff because she was obsessed with Lizzie McGuire. But there was something about when she went to her first One Direction concert as like a high school junior, because that was right when they started. And she caught the One Direction from the very beginning, from right when they were just coming onto the scene, and was obsessed. I used to really equate that to how I felt about Duran Duran, and they weren't as old. They weren't older men, but just the thrill of knowing what she was going to experience at that One Direction concert. And she did, so yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's a really important experience in our formative years to have crushes like that. And we talk about that a lot in our podcast, the importance of crushes. They play a really important role in your adolescence and in your development.
Oh, absolutely. Me and my friends, we used to crush hard on some metal bands, and we just thought they were the sexiest ever.
Yeah,
I mean, you
right.
know, those leather pants, like
Yeah.
more of that, please.
Yeah. It's just that little bit of, and I think with us with Duran Duran too, it was, because they were older, like I've said, and everything, it was just, gosh, it was almost a little bit of danger. You know, it was like,
yeah,
I mean,
they
we
were
these good,
bad boys.
well, and we were very good girls, you know, we're
Mhm.
13, 14-year-old, and we were very good girls. And I say all the time, you know, Simon Le Bon was my first crush. And like I've just said too, we talk about crushes. I can go back to, you know, Donny Osmond was my first innocent crush. He was truly my puppy love.
Mhm.
Then I moved on to Scott Baio, which was my first complete infatuation, but it was a very innocent crush.
Right.
I didn't have like those types of feelings,
Right.
you know, we'll put feelings in like italics, capital. With Scott Baio, it was, I wanted him to hold my hand. I saw him in concert and I wouldn't get too close to the stage because I was terrified he was going to see me. I was 10 years old. I was terrified he was going to see me and want to marry me. And I was like, well,
Weren't quite ready for that.
I wasn't quite ready. And then Simon Le Bon was 100% my first crush where you have those feelings. And
Mhm.
that's an important crush too. He was a little bit dangerous. He was a bad boy. And I think, you know, all girls need to have that type of fantasy and crush, you know,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest with you. So why not let it be someone from Skid Row or someone from Duran Duran or someone from One Direction, you know?
Mhm. No, I totally agree. And, you know, because I'm such a novice with Duran Duran, I'm looking up like who's who. Honestly, this is so embarrassing. People are going to come for me.
I might come through my screen at you right now.
I'm so embarrassed to say it. I thought Duran Duran was two dudes. Duran. I don't know why I thought that. I just did. I don't.
Until recently?
Yeah, I don't know that
Oh.
I spent time with these videos before.
Lori, we have a lot to cover.
I'm so horrified.
Listeners, I have my work cut out for me today.
People love Duran Duran. I feel like
Mhm.
such a traitor to the Gen X generation.
Wow.
And then I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people in the band. And then I'm looking at their names and I'm like, 3 Taylors? Are they brothers? And I'm Googling this and my husband's like, yeah, they're totally brothers.
No,
and he
there's
knows
3
a
Taylors.
lot of Duran Duran. And then I find out, okay, the Taylors are not related.
Mhm.
I tell him that. He's like, what? How is that possible? How are 3 of the 5 people in that
Mhm.
band? How do they have a last name Taylor and they're not related? I'm like, I don't know. I thought there
Mhm.
were 2 dudes in the band.
Yeah. Were you thinking of Wham or were you just really
I don't
thinking-
know. I really, it's like Duran Duran has honestly been a huge blind spot for me.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Lori,
I
you're
know.
missing out on so much. Okay. I am
know.
so excited for the next, what's going to happen in your life after
I
this.
mean, right? Like the next chapter of my life is about to begin.
Well, let me just tell you, basically right now, you are Dorothy. Your life has been black and white up until this
it's about
point.
to become
You are
Technicolor.
about to be full Technicolor.
Oh man, it's all happening. So, okay, Duran Duran, it's 5 guys. They were dubbed the Fab Five by the British press. And this album was released on May 10th, 1982. In terms of the conceptualization of like what they wanted this album to be, John Taylor thought they should call it RIO because they had done all this travel in support of their first album. And to him, it was like the most exotic things in life could only come from a place with such a colorful, seductive, welcoming spirit. And a place like that, in his mind, was RIO.
Mhm.
And so RIO was born.
That's right. And I
Mhm.
think to this day, RIO is considered Duran Duran's like magnum opus. Like it is their breakthrough album. It's the one that still is thought by most critics to be their best, their most defining, their masterpiece. And I think that's really important just because I think that, and maybe even some of your friends or age mates, sisters, whatever, got swept up in this Duran mania, right? In the 1980s. And so for so many people, because they were such a band that the girls went completely crazy over, that often overshadowed how good their music was. So a lot of people in the 80s kind of discounted Duran Duran, especially like people who didn't crush on them. they almost were just like, didn't even really give them a chance. It was more like, oh, well, that's the band that all the girls are going crazy over.
Right. There can't be substance there. They're too pretty.
Right. And so it almost also became kind of not an embarrassment, but it was like, oh, Duran Duran's your favorite band? Like, I roll, of course they are. You're a girl in 1984. Of course it's Duran Duran. But what a lot of those people were missing is that they're brilliant musicians. And I'm honestly not just saying that because I love them. But their music is regarded very highly by people who actually do know music and music critics to this day. A lot of very astute, I guess you could say, music critics and everything count Duran Duran as one of their favorite bands.
And certainly so influential. Of course, new wave was coming on the scene hot, but they were poetic and they were deep and they were kind of emo and they had a lot to say. So much of this album is so moody. It's a mood.
It's everything. RIO is everything. You get the best bops. You get the most sensual type music. You get very serious. You get haunting. One thing I will say, Duran Duran lyrics have always to me just been kind of a cluster. Can I say that?
Yeah. Oh my God, please.
Okay. Honestly, some of my most misheard lyrics of my life are from Duran Duran songs. However, if you just kind of go with what you think Simon's singing, and even if it makes zero sense to you, usually you're right, because usually you're like, that can't be what he's saying, but that's what it sounds like. And you're singing it and you look up the lyrics, back in the day would take the little thing out of our cassette,
liner notes.
You try to look really carefully. I could see back then, so I could see them, but I would be like, no, that is exactly what he's saying. So they don't make a ton of sense. There's a lot of message boards online now where people debate what a lot of Duran Duran songs are trying. Like, what's the meaning behind the song? Because a lot of people they just don't know. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. And what about the cover art? What did you think about it?
It's so classic. So that's that classic Patrick Nagel design, which is basically, I think, is supposed to kind of represent the quintessential 1980s woman. It is a classic. That is a framer. That album cover is one that you can put in a frame.
It's absolute art. I mean, this woman is very mysterious, very exotic. And she looked like maybe a girl named RIO would look, right?
She sure does. Yes.
I mean, she really did.
Yeah. I saw somewhere when I was reading that it's been acclaimed as one of the greatest album covers of all time, which I don't know. But I guess Nagel had never done an album cover before. He did RIO, and they asked him.
Yeah, he was like an artist for Playboy.
Right. That's right.
Yes.
I read that too. And he was like, sure, I'll give it a try. And it became this iconic cover.
Isn't that amazing? And what was really unusual for Duran Duran was that they maintained creative control over their brand. And they worked outside of the label with independent artists and folks to keep the look and feel of the RIO branding, what they wanted it to be. Because, record companies, they've got their bright ideas and they were very clear in what they wanted the RIO vision to look like.
Right. They're not just pretty faces, Lori.
No. No,
those boys are the whole package.
I mean, they got it all. They really do. So let's talk about the track list here.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
What was your favorite song on the album?
Oh, don't.
You can't choose. They're like children.
Yeah, I can. I can. Like I said, I'm not a music aficionado. I just know what I like.
Right.
On this album, it's a toss up, but I think edging out is RIO. And I think it's just because, tell me you can listen to the opening of RIO without playing air drums, and I'll tell you you're a liar. There is no way. Dun, dun, dun. You're listening to it, dun, 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 as you're driving in your car. You're hitting those three drums. And then it's like, da, 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 down.
It's a hook.
Down.
You're transported on vacation. You're there.
And the song is just a joyride for me. It's such a singable. It's one of the most singable Duran Duran songs, I feel. When I hear RIO, I feel like I'm on that boat with them flying across the Caribbean. Right. I honestly do. It's a feel-good song. It's so fun to sing to, as usual. The lyrics just are bizarre and fun.
Right.
It's like a playful song. And so I think that I would have to say I love this whole album. There's only maybe one or two songs that I would fast forward through. But this song, yeah, this will be my number one.
It's my number one too.
Mhm.
And that might be because it's the one that Hungry Like the Wolf, I'm
Mhm.
pretty damn familiar with. How can you not
Yeah.
be? But
Yeah.
I think RIO is my pick too for favorite. Now, least favorite. You said there's one or two you'd skip.
Let's see. So I have them all in order. I would say it's hard. I'm not going to call it least favorite because I like this song. But if I was forced
Okay.
to order them, probably the one that would be at the bottom would be Hold Back the Rain. And I like that song so much. No, I'm changing it. The one at the very bottom would probably Last Chance on the Stairway because there's a lot about Hold Back the Rain that I actually like a lot. But I don't make me, Lori. This was supposed to be fun.
I'm sorry.
Why?
Hold Back the Rain was written by Simon Le Bon as a plea to John Taylor for him to like slow down his partying.
Right. That's right.
Yes. Like his drinking and drug use had
Mhm.
begun to kind of spiral out of control and it was worrying the band. Le Bon said, the night I wrote it, I just slipped a copy under his door and he's never even mentioned it to me. Never.
Simon Le Bon is so caring and he is so thoughtful.
I mean, he's your husband. No wonder you chose him.
That man tries everything he can to help those friends of his that he's worried about.
Through song.
Hold Back the Rain, I heard, was edited down from 10 minutes, actually. It was,
Oh, wow.
but it's a good song. It's just if I'm ordering them, I'm
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Oh, yeah. So another one of their songs, though, that is not quite as well known as, the RIOs, The Hungry Like the Wolf, The Save of Prayers. There's one called Lonely in Your Nightmare that is just a beautiful song. And I'm telling you what, back, in 1983, when Simon sings, You're so lonely in your nightmare, let me in. He clearly was singing it to me. And that was so unfair to everybody else listening to it. But, I just let him. I didn't say anything.
Right.
But that's a beautiful song. I feel like it's just really kind of sensual.
Oh, I would agree with you. I really like this song. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a very intimate song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me into the worst parts of you and your life
Mhm.
and what you're going
Yeah.
through. And I
Well,
want to
that's really good.
walk this journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he has a beautiful soul, Lori.
He's a beautiful man with a beautiful soul.
That's all there is to it. Another one that is such a fun song. Did you like New Religion? It's very fast.
I liked it. It was a dance number. Like I could totally see myself rocking out to this at a discotheque. Yes.
And it's one that the more you listen to it, and it's very fast, and he has a lot to say in this
Mhm.
song. And this one is, according to people on the internet, which this I think is kind of the well-known thought that it's about the dialogue between your ego and your alter ego. And it's really evidenced by once you get to the chorus, it's the two voices singing over each other, which is my
Mhm.
favorite part of that song. But that song goes so fast and he's almost like rapping it. He's singing so fast. And
Mhm.
to this day, and I've probably listened to it, how many hundreds of times over my life, there's only certain like phrases I can throw out. So it's one of those where you're singing it in the car. I'm just singing a whole bunch of like, sort of like when I sing to the Bee Gees, I'm like, it's got time for the friend of mine to make the noise.
It's like every
I'm talking
fourth
for
word.
free. Yeah. And then I get to the chorus and
Right.
I'm all like, I can't stop myself. It's a new religion. But then when he's doing the other part, I'm just sort of like taking all time with a friend of mine. But it's a bop too. It's a fun song.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, that one actually is a pretty popular song. I wouldn't call that one a lesser known. I think a lot of people really have strong feelings about New Religion in a good way.
What did you think of The Chauffeur?
The Chauffeur, let's start with The Chauffeur. Are we talking song or video first with Chauffeur?
There's a video?
Oh, Lori.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Did I miss that?
Listeners,
Oh my God.
listeners. Can we all just take a moment right now to hold Lori softly and stroke her hair?
Lori does not deserve to host this podcast.
Lori, the video for The Chauffeur
Take
is
over,
basically
Michelle.
this very artsy black and white. It's like you're watching a movie in an art house.
Is it like film noir type style? Okay.
100%.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry.
Let me just set this up for you and for
Okay,
listeners who
okay.
might not have seen it. So, there's lots, it starts out, there's lots of beautiful, like scantily dressed women in garter belts, see-through leotards, corsets. One happens to be riding in the back of like a 1920s chauffeur, like limo. In London. And she's in the beautiful lingerie, but she's kind of like rubbing her hands on herself. She's got like a garter belt on. It's this very sexy scene. Her chauffeur kind of keeps glancing in the rearview mirror at her. Then we cut to this other woman who is in her own, like her boudoir. And she is in a bra and underwear, putting on her garter belt. Beautiful woman. And it's all done very beautifully. Let's just say that. Let me just say that. So she's getting dressed and she puts on a trench coat and she starts walking through the streets of London. She meets up with the woman who's in the car. And they walk slowly toward each other and they just touch hands and they just start doing this little dance back and forth, staring into each other's eyes and doing this dance. It's very sensual. And it's almost like you're watching it going, oh God, what's about to happen? I don't know if I should watch or if I shouldn't watch. And then a chauffeur gets out of another car and comes walking, takes the hat off, and it's a woman, takes the chauffeur coat off and she's topless.
What?
And she's watching the other two women touch hands and kind of do this back and forth. And she starts doing this very like sensual kind of writhing dance. And she's just kind of doing this solo dance the whole time. And then, so she's off to the side. And then you've got the male chauffeur who's like watching the whole thing.
And he's like, best day ever.
So was I guarantee you all the like 13-year-old boys who were like, Duran Duran's stupid. Duran Duran sucks. When this video would come, I'm not even sure if MTV was allowed to show it, but we're probably like, love that video. It's a very sexy video. It's beautifully shot. Watching it as a 53-year-old woman again, the other day, I'm appreciating that. It's beautifully shot. There's nothing that crosses the line with it. Did it cross the line in 1983 to be played on MTV? Probably, I would imagine. Was it too sexy for me to watch if I saw it at age 13? Yeah, probably. But it was probably also tittillating. There's nothing dirty about it. There's nothing wrong. It's these beautiful women. They're not doing anything. They're just, there's just that almost, are they not going to do something? So, and the song, it's just, to me, the chauffeur just has this haunting pulse. Do, 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 do. Apologies, everyone. I can't sing. So when I try to recreate things of songs, it sounds perfect in my head. And then he says, and the sun drips down, bedding heavy behind the front of your dress, all shadowy lined, and the droning engine throbs in time with your beating heart while it's going do, 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 do. Yep. And this is the song where he says, sing blue, silver. And that became the title of their tour. That became, don't ask me what any of this song means or anything. It's just, to me, The Chauffeur is just this haunting, beautiful song that once I hear it, it becomes an earworm for me for days.
Well, did you know that? I mean, I didn't even know there was a video. So let's just start there. But
please watch it. Please.
I will
watch it.
As soon as we're done here, I will absolutely watch it. LeBon's lyrics for The Chauffeur were what helped him get the gig in Duran Duran.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Duran Duran was looking for a lead singer, and like one of the guys worked with a girl at this club. They were performing at a club. I think they were like a house band. And she was like, oh, well, my boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, whatever, Simon, like he might be a really good fit. And so Simon came, and he came with this little like book of song lyrics and poetry because, he's a sensitive soul.
Yeah, and a poet.
Yes. And he came with these lyrics, and we're like, dude, yes. Yeah. And so, the heart and soul. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Well, and The Chauffeur is a song that really showcases his voice, to be quite honest with you. His voice has this tremendous range. I'm not just complimenting him. It actually does. He can sing. I love the songs where he sings super low on, but when he gets to the sing blue silver part in The Chauffeur, it's a beautiful moment.
I will definitely check it out.
Good.
Yeah. Do you want to jump into RIO? Do you want to talk about the video?
Sure. Let's talk about the video. That is a crazy ride, isn't it?
Oh my God. It's so fun. So as I mentioned earlier, John Taylor, the man with the RIO vision, he said, RIO to me was shorthand for the truly foreign, the exotic, a cornucopia of earthly delights, a party that would never stop. And this video is a party that never stops. It was directed by Russell Mulcahy. I don't know. He directed a lot of their videos, and he's directed videos for like Elton John, Spandau Ballet, Fleetwood Mac, Billy Joel, lots of people.
All great artists.
All great artists. And the video was filmed over 3 days in Antigua, an island in the Caribbean Sea.
It's a fun fever dream, that video.
Oh my God, isn't it?
It's bizarre. Don't watch that video and try to make sense of it. Just go with it. Like if you try to put a story together, you're just going to leave disappointed. Just enjoy it.
My notes is such a clusterfuck. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. So like, it opens with crotch shots, right? Like John's taking pictures of them. The camera zooming in on them. Nick like basically comes out of the water face to face with them. It's just like the lyrics of most of their songs. Like it's just a cluster. I mean, the iconic part of this video is the chorus when they're flying through the water on that yacht. And if you watch it closely, when I was watching it the other day again, I was dying. Something I never noticed in all the times. Simon's at the front, and at one point he's sitting like on the bow, the big stick thing that goes forward. Right?
We're boat people. Can't you tell?
Exactly. The stick in front. There's a net under it. He was going to be fine. But if you look over on the side, now you might not know, but Lori, these are members of the band, and it's Nick is one of them. And behind him,
I gathered that, Michelle. That much I gathered.
Behind him, now I'm forgetting who's behind him. They are holding onto the ropes for dear life because that boat is like on its side, flying through the water. And how terrified must they have been?
Oh my God, so scary. In fact, Nick Rhodes did not enjoy shooting this video at all.
I don't blame him.
He was seasick like the whole time. He said, I hate boats unless they're tied up and you're having cocktails on them.
Well, that boat is not tied up and it is listing to its side. And that poor guy, because at least the other side, you're kind of flying through the water. He's down where it's like bumping on the water the whole time.
Oh my God.
But that's iconic part of the video. That's the fun. But my favorite parts of the video is there's this lady and she's floating on a like a raft made of logs. Yeah. She's just floating. I think she might even be having a cocktail.
Yeah. She's
and
chilling.
all you see is a hand come out of the ocean with a tray with a pink plastic like toy telephone. So she picks it up and then you see Simon on the boat and he has the matching blue plastic toy telephone. And he starts the second verse and she yanks the cord and from like, however many feet away, Simon there's no cord on, he goes flying into the water and it's just so random.
It's so random. So many things are random. Like the colorful cocktail that they drink underwater.
Or what about Roger's going down to the, he's like trotting on down and here comes this really sexy, like vixen coming out. She's in this beautiful, like one-piece suit, but she somehow, for some reason has like a big, like shark knife attached to her
it was
thigh.
very that was like a very Bond bathing suit. It was like a Bond move out of the water. Yeah.
And so she's coming out and you think, oh no, Roger, he's going to get knifed. But no, he doesn't get knifed. Instead, he gets bit by like this giant crab. And he's like trying to shake it off his foot. And she like kicks him and he goes flipping back.
I know.
Simon's like running down the dock in a Speedo. And then this like CGI giant ball or something comes bouncing down.
Knocks him off the little pier into the water. Yeah. Oh my God. And that painted woman. The woman with the body paint?
What's with the painted woman? And then like at one point her foot just shows up and she's just a polka dot foot.
This painted vixen woman, her name is Rima Rispoli. She is now a princess. She's married to a prince. She lives in Tuscany.
Look what being associated with them can do for you.
I mean, you could become a princess.
Yeah, it's and then there's scenes, I guess there's parts of the video, little short segments that are trying to show the different band members living out their assorted daydreams. Like John's reading like this comic and then all of a sudden he's like army crawling on the beach. He's all of a sudden in his comic, but it's like they had that idea, which is a good idea for a video. And they shot like 2 little vignettes of it. And then they're like, nah, let's just do some other weird shit. But we're going to keep those things in.
Like splice. Like none of it makes it. You're trying to follow, like, what is the arc of this story? Like, what is happening?
You can't do
here?
it.
No,
you just have to go with it and just
have
fun
to go with
it.
It's a good time. This has been viewed over 7 million times on YouTube. It seems like it would be more, but I was looking at the comments. Someone said, I want to permanently live in this music video.
I'll second that. Yeah.
A lot of people were just going on and on and on about how absolutely sick and amazing the bass line is in this song.
Now, see, I don't know that kind of stuff, but yes, I'll agree.
Apparently it is fire. So,
Well, and like I said, from the beginning, those drums at the very beginning, and then you've also got right before the chorus. I love it when it goes, and I'm going to assume it's Nick's keyboard, or it could be a guitar. I don't know. Right before they say her name is Rio, it goes.
yes,
I love that part. That's another musical moment for me that I look forward to in that song.
it's such a fun song. The song reached number 6 on the Billboard 200.
Oh, that's not high enough. Yeah.
Let's talk Hungry Like the Wolf. We could talk about this all day. In an interview with Blender magazine, Andy Taylor said that track came in from fiddling with new technology that was starting to come into the studio. And apparently the lyrics were inspired by Little Red Riding Hood. And John Taylor said that he doesn't really know what the lyrics mean, but they were probably about meeting girls and or wanting to have sex with someone. So there you go.
I would just say they probably could use that answer just for the years, 1980 to like 19 until they all got married. They could just probably say that's basically what our lyrics, our music, and our life was about.
Yeah.
Hungry Like the Wolf is just all caps a bop. From the giggling girl at the beginning to the do-do-do-do-do-do-doos. I love some good do-doos, to it's a perfect pop song to me. It's just a sing-along song like Rio. You can't help it. That's another you can't help sing along. It's a good time. And Hungry Like the Wolf is to this day played all the time.
All the time.
I've been living in Duran Duran, Rio for the past few days, doing just some, research for this episode. And twice in the past few days, once it was playing in Target, and once I had to go pick up something I had framed at a frame shop, and I walked into the frame shop and Hungry Like the Wolf was playing. So it's on that. But I love that this generation is growing up with it too. My daughters who are 26 and 21, they know Duran Duran. They know, well, because their mother played it a lot and it's on almost all my playlists, but songs, especially like Hungry Like the Wolf, they know from me, but they would know from just hearing it.
Right. Just living in the world.
Hungry Like the Wolf is definitely one that you hear a lot. If you had to pick a handful of Duran Duran songs that are still played or that today's generation could tell you, Hungry Like the Wolf is, I think, one of the first ones they would mention.
I mean, it's certainly the one that I'm the most familiar with. And I'm not introducing my kids to Duran Duran. I know, shame on me. But hopefully the world is like the Targets of the world and grocery stores of the world are doing their job and they will know this song. For the video, they wanted like jungles and exotic women. And so the director was like, hey, Sri Lanka is where it's at. I was just there. It would be perfect. So their label, EMI, spent $200,000 to send them. I mean, that's a lot of money at that time. Andy Taylor described the video as Indiana Jones is horny and wants to get laid.
Okay, again,
right?
That's a blanket statement, Andy.
Right.
So it's not a fun fact about me. It's a terrible thing to live with. It's a debilitating thing, but I have a serious debilitating phobia of snakes. So in most of their videos from this album, there's a snake because in most of the videos from the Rio album, they happen to be in Sri Lanka or in Antigua or in these islands. But I know enough about Hungry Like the Wolf. Like when I rewatched it the other day, it's been decades since I've seen this video. I knew to close my eyes at the beginning of this video because
with
there's
the
a snake
snake
at the beginning.
charmer in the restaurant.
Yes, but I know when to open my eyes because very soon after that, the camera comes over to the next table and we see Simon looking like a real sexy Carmen Sandiego. And he's there. We got the little round glasses. He's got the great hat on. And then he gets very angry and he throws the table.
Does a table flip.
And then he's on a chase.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he's chasing this woman. He's on a hunt, right?
I'm on a hunt. I'm after you. Is that the lyric?
Yes.
Okay. I nailed it, guys.
I'm on the hunt. I'm after you.
Okay.
And he's having all these Indiana Jones moments.
For sure.
He's on boats. He's on rope bridges. He's in great peril at some point. He's falling through. Oh no. And for some reason, the rest of the band can't find him. He's just taken off.
They're just riding around in Jeeps looking for him.
The rest of the band, he's chasing this another painted woman.
Yes.
But I feel like she's sort of is she a wolf? We don't know. Could we say she's a wolf? Because at the end, when they have their tussle, she gives him the giant scratch on his neck. Poor Simon. But he needs to catch her. But the rest of the band is just like, where did he go? They're asking people. They're all walking around too. I love that they're all in different variations of a white, like jacket. Some of them have on like white jackets with no shirt.
Right.
Some of them, they're all dressed, of course, to match. But the best part of this video, we're all just going to have a moment for it.
Okay.
Simon has been running. He's been running. And he's so exhausted, poor boy. He collapses on a rock.
Oh,
and he collapses and he's exhausted and he's dehydrated.
Right.
And so this little boy comes, and back in the day, I like to imagine that was me. And he's got a wet rag, but he can squeeze it over Simon's parched face and his mouth. And he's opening his mouth and he's squeezing the water in his mouth. When I was rewatching it the other day, I just had to chuckle because I just had this very real feeling of remembering watching that at age, 13, 14, and just like, that was sort of a sensual thing, right? Like that's
and you're like, I wish I was that boy.
Yes. Give me the wet rag. I'll squeeze it into your mouth, Simon. And he's like trying to sing, but it's kind of funny watching it now. He's trying to lip sync. And the boy is squeezing the water and he opens his mouth and you know he was probably choking the whole time, like But yeah, so then there's this big drum part right before the bridge of the song, and he comes face to face with the woman, and they have this tussle on the ground, and she scratches him, and poor Simon, he's scratched, and then he ends up back in the bar with the band, and they seem to all be having a great time.
That fight between them, the painted woman, the animal woman, her name is Sheila Ming. She was a Bermudian model. That tussle that they have, it's very like sexy jungle foreplay stuff. Like it was pretty sexy, right?
You kind of don't know. Is it that, or is she like trying to kill him? Yeah.
Is it both?
The way that they shoot it is they kind of like do this stop, like it's almost done like kind of jerky.
Yes.
You know what's funny about this though, Lori, is that we did an episode at Pop Culture Preservation Society back coming up on about a year ago on MTV. And one of the things we all had to share is one of our favorite videos.
Okay.
And I think I said Hungry Like the Wolf or RIO. But the reason I said Hungry Like the Wolf in the episode is because I said you get to see Simon crawling on the ground, almost like that, that wolf crawl. You don't. Like that's something, isn't that weird? Our memories are so weird. In my memory for decades of Hungry Like the Wolf, Simon like crawls toward the camera.
It's total Mandela effect stuff.
Absolutely does not.
Right. It is so funny how our memories play tricks on us like that.
Maybe it's because I imagined him crawling like that towards me.
In your fantasy, he was crawling toward you. Yes.
I don't
know. This album actually wasn't doing so hot in the States until MTV put the video on like damn near constant rotation. And this video was the thing that just catapulted them to superstardom in America. And Les Garland, the senior executive VP of MTV, he said, I remember our director of talent and artist relations come running in and say, you have got to see this video that's come in. Duran Duran was getting zero radio airplay at the time, and MTV wanted to try and break new music. Hungry Like the Wolf was the greatest video I had ever seen.
They say, so Martha Quinn, who at the time was one of the original the OG VJs, she was my favorite. I loved her. I read a quote from her that said, everyone says MTV made Duran Duran. She said, but you know what? Duran Duran made MTV too, which is kind of true. I think it was kind of the same. And I think the reason back then, the videos were very much just bands playing their instruments. They might have done some kind of funny little, and some of Duran Duran's videos are like that too. In fact, one of the tracks from this album is called My Own Way. And I love that song. And I love that video. One, because I love Simon in a headband, and Simon's rocking a nice red headband and a black leather jacket. John's got the red hair. Yep. John also, I'm going to tell you, John Taylor is just to me as appealing as Simon, but he's my friend Lisa's husband from 1983. So I can't go there.
Can't cross that boundary.
No, he's more
would
just
be
like
wrong.
My good friend. Yeah. But I love the videos that Duran Duran does where they're just playing their instruments and singing as well. But back then when MTV started, a lot of videos were like that.
Yeah.
And so Duran Duran comes in, they have this kind of artistic spin, even if like RIO, they're not making a lot of sense. Hungry Like the Wolf arguably makes more sense than the RIO one does.
Sure.
You can construct a story with Hungry Like the Wolf. With RIO, you're kind of like, oh, fuck, I don't know.
Right.
Just let's have fun. But I think that's what made people sit up and take notice of them is because they're coming in, they're doing videos unlike videos that really had been seen.
Right, right. It was all new and fresh. And for this album, most of the videos really like transport you somewhere that you would never otherwise have a chance to see, like really exotic locations where life is really different. And they kind of give you like slice of life imagery.
Right.
And it's fun. It's fun to see. And of course, the song ended up huge. It peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It won the first Grammy Award for best, they used to call it Best Short Form Music Video in 1984.
Yeah, because there were long forms. Would that be like?
Yeah, I mean, that the
I don't
format
know.
was so new. Yeah. It was a good time. This video has been viewed over 16 million times. And someone said, that little giggle at the beginning is the most underrated thing in the history of music. It's like you said, when you hear that.
Yeah. Is that what the one? Oh, no, it's on RIO. It's one of them, either that one or the girl on RIO is Nick Rhodes's girlfriend. I think it's on RIO though.
Oh, someone said, I was actually afraid of this video as a small child. Now it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Simon, you get kind of worried about him.
He's in real danger for a minute.
Yeah.
It's real touch and go there for a second. To this day, this is Duran Duran's #1 streaming song.
Well, that's the reason it's played in Target.
There you go.
Yeah.
It peaked at number 3 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and reached number 3 on the US year-end charts for 83.
Wow.
So quite successful.
Yeah.
So you touched on My Own Way.
Yep. It's a good song. That's a bop too. And it's a fun video. Watch the video. They all look so cute in that. They're so young.
I like this song, but John Taylor says that it's not a favorite. This was never a US single. It was a single in the UK, but not in the US.
They never even released this song, I read, on any of their compilation albums.
Oh, really?
It's not a favorite by any of them. And here's the thing. If I'm going to make a top 10 list, it's not going to even make my top 10.
Okay.
In fact, I tried to make a top 5 list last night.
Couldn't do it.
Oh my God. Like, it was like I was studying for like the bar or like the MCATs. I was like, no, I'm crossing things out. I'm putting things in different places. I'm like, nope.
Got diagrams.
No. And I will say too, to those people listening, like, I'm very much an OG Duran Duran. Like, one thing that I love about them is they've really never stopped performing. Now, Andy, he's come and gone. Roger kind of came and went too, but Roger's back with them. Andy, there've just been too many creative differences. So Andy is no longer with them, which is fine. Andy was my least favorite anyway, but they just released an album that's fantastic. They're still touring because guess who's going to see them in August?
Yes.
Guess who has really good seats? My husband, just God bless him. He loves Duran Duran too, but like he just has no idea what he's in store for. I haven't been since that 1984 concert.
Oh, you're going to cry.
Oh, cry.
Fangirl out, freak out.
I'm going to be like shaking. I'm going to need to be medicated. So I'm very excited. Anyway, so they're still touring. They're Simon's 65, 64.
Great.
He's a grandfather. He's been married to the same woman since 1985, which if I go back in time, I realize it's Yasmin and I knew who she was. I didn't want to ever learn too much about her because she was my direct competition.
Right.
I'll never forget the name Claire Stansfield in my whole life because that's who his girlfriend was when I was in love with him.
That bitch,
Claire Stansfield. So he ended up marrying Yasmin in 1985. They're still married to this day. They have 3 gorgeous daughters. I mean, gorgeous. One of them sings. She's on their latest record, and he has 2 grandchildren.
Wow.
I know. Here's the thing. I do not crush on Simon Le Bon today. I just don't. Again, we talk a lot about crushes in our podcast. One of our hosts, Kristen, is a crushologist.
Yes.
She actually has studied a lot about crushes and their meaning. And there is something to that. It's living in this nostalgic time. I don't live in the past. I'm going to go see them in July or in August. It's going to be a different experience because I can see them on an interview and I don't feel like I'm going to cry or get all fangirly because they're 60-something-year-old men. But you honor that 14-year-old girl in you by going back and seeing them and by seeing them sing, The Reflex, which is my #1 Duran Duran song. You see that, you see them sing these songs and you get that feeling inside.
It takes you back to that time, and you feel all those same emotions again. I'm going to see New Kids on the Block.
See, And I missed out on that boy. I missed out on the New Kids on the Block, the 98 Degrees. I was a big fan of NSYNC, but as a, aren't they so cute? Little, I was older.
Right.
But with Duran Duran too, I am a huge fan. It's those first 3 albums. They have so many songs since then that I love. Ordinary World and Wild Boys.
Ordinary World.
Yes. And so they have a lot of good music. They've branched out. They've done their own thing. John and Andy did their own thing. Simon did something different for a while. I'm not a diehard fan of all that music. I honestly think once Simon got married in about 1985, I was kind of done in about 1986 and I had moved on to the Brat Pack. I was all Andrew McCarthy and Rob Lowe and I still loved their music, but does that make me not as true of a fan as the people who still love all the stuff? I don't know, but I don't
think so.
Yeah.
Let's talk Save a Prayer.
Listen, we can talk Save a Prayer if you'll let me have a cigarette after because, and I don't smoke. That's the only way I can talk to you about this song, Lori. Okay.
This song is about, quote, a realistic, not romantic one-night stand. It was written by Laban when the band was on tour, and he said that the chorus of this song is based on Gordon Lightfoot's If You Could Read My Mind. Okay, I know that song. Yeah. I know all the words to that song. We could sing it right now.
Yeah. When I read that the other day, I was singing that song on my head going, I'm not hearing it, but maybe.
I'm not hearing it either. That's what I was going to ask you.
No, 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 no. I don't know. Okay. And Simon can say all he wants that it's not romantic.
Okay.
That one night stand was so romantic. Like some people call it a one night stand, but we can call it paradise is what he sings.
Yes.
And come on. And his voice is one of the words I abhor most in the English language for some reason is the word tender. But I'm telling you, Simon's voice is tender in this song. And maybe he didn't set out to make this a romantic song lyrically, but the song to me is so romantic and so sexy. And you pair it with the video too. It's next level. And I feel like, I don't feel like I know this to be true, that this is a song that really made people stand up and take notice of Duran Duran. I think just seeing how they could be so varied in their musical and what they're producing and what they're creating. It's a beautiful song. It's in my top 5, no question. Like that one has a place in my top 5.
It sounds like a dream. The song sounds like a dream.
That's beautiful. It does.
It was filmed in Sri Lanka between the ancient rock fortress and the Buddhist temple. It feels so sacred. The song feels sacred and dreamy.
And I feel like they almost give the song respect. And they almost first of all, I was reading a lot of, I guess I could say fun facts about shooting this video, which are not really fun at all because there was a civil war, I think, going on at the time there or something. And it was very perilous for them to be there. But just from the beginning, he's just sort of sitting on this sofa and he's in this white suit and he's just singing out the window. He's just kind of looking wistfully. But then he turns and he looks right into the camera and then just the slow dancing with the woman, another snake in this video, by the way, which I always know where it's coming. Slow dancing with the lady, the red dress.
Yes.
Oh.
And then she just leaves him and he's just standing there. Like who leaves Simon Laban?
And I would be quick to run back in. I'd be like, I'm here, Simon. Yeah. So some of the fun facts I learned about this is that one of them, it says there's a scene where the band is riding on elephants. I don't think that made the final cut, but anyway, a female elephant made a bizarre sound and it turned out to be the elephant's mating call. And the elephant carrying Roger Taylor charged downhill and tried to mount the other elephant.
Oh my God.
Nick Rhodes says it was funny as hell, but it was quite hairy for a moment.
So you scary. Talk about peril. That's an Indiana Jones moment.
Right. This is my other, I have a whole bunch of these, but my other favorite one I wanted to share was while sitting on a branch over a lagoon and miming playing his guitar, I love this word, a rather sozzled Andy Taylor fell into the water. He accidentally swallowed some of the water and had to be hospitalized during their Australian tour due to a tropical virus.
Yes, he said, I was feeling hot and sweaty on stage in Sydney. And I was suddenly doubled up by excruciating stomach cramps. I managed to play to the end of the set, but during the encore, I had to quickly dash behind an amp where I was violently ill. And he said the medical team realized where he had been and he had some non-specific tropical virus and it was from the dirty water.
Yeah. When they were there, I guess there was a lot of unrest, and it was kind of like one of those, let's shoot this video and get out of here. But at the same time, it's a beautifully shot video. And especially the very
that
ending.
aerial photography.
Yeah, they had to
Gorgeous.
drop them off on a helicopter, I guess. But at the very end, when they're all walking into this, I suppose it's like a temple, right?
Yes.
And they all walk in so slowly and almost like so reverently.
Mm-hmm.
The very ending where they all just, those 5 faces, and they're all just like slowly raising their heads up. It's a beautiful video, and it's a gorgeous song.
I love the video. And of course, when they're walking around in the temple without their shoes on, out of respect, the ground was like scorching hot. Their feet
really?
were so burned.
Oh,
It was tough to shoot because, of course, they want to elicit this mood, right?
Right.
And they want to be respectful of the environment that they're in. And it is
Oh my
a
gosh.
sacred space. And they were just like,
Oh, Simon needed me there with a rag to squeeze water on his poor hot feet.
feet. Yes.
I'm here for you, Simon.
Someone said in the comments, some call it the 80s, but we can call it paradise.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a song that just transports me back. Mm-hmm.
Someone said, for those of us who have had a one night stand and fell in love.
Yeah. Oh, that could
Right?
hit totally differently. Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. And Duran Duran was Princess Diana's favorite band.
I know. Isn't
So
that amazing?
cool.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. From 1983 to probably 86 is the height of, or even 83 to 85, because when we've talked about the Bee Gees on our podcast, we've used the expression like flash in a pan, but it was like a grease fire in a pan because I mean, they burned bright and then they just kind of died out. Duran Duran, happily, they kept playing and their music kept getting appreciated. But as far as like the Duran mania, as far as the people just going crazy and just the infatuation of the girls over Duran Duran, I mean, in my opinion, it was kind of an 83 to 85, 86 thing. And is that because that was when it was mine? Maybe. So that's my experience with it. But, because by then they're all like 27, 28. So it's not the same thing. It's not like crushing on this boy band. I'll use air quotes here because they weren't a boy band in the sense that we think of 98 Degrees or NSYNC or New Kids on the Block or something like that.
Yeah. And, they all loved the album. That's the best part. John Taylor said in his 2012 memoir, In the Pleasure Groove, he said, the writing on RIO is fantastic, all out, essential Duran Duran.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us is performing at the absolute peak of our talents. There's no showboating. Every part is thoughtful, considered, part of a greater whole.
Mm-hmm.
So they all love the album.
Mm-hmm.
And it stands to this day. The album is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It went 2-time platinum.
Oh,
yeah. In their career, Duran Duran has released 15 studio albums and sold over 100 million albums worldwide.
just give them a slow clap. Yeah.
So you're saying that Duran Duran is in your rotation today?
Oh, yeah. At least one Duran Duran song in most of my playlists. Do I listen to them every day? No.
Do you wear your Duran Duran pin every day?
It's always on my jean jacket.
I love it.
So this pin was on my jean jacket when jean jackets weren't like ironic or,
Right.
anything like. Yes, I'm often afraid I'm going to lose it. So
I mean, it's authentic. It's vintage.
I know. I wish I still had a lot of my old, and I'm sure in a box, like I said, in a box in my mom's garage somewhere is probably all my old posters and my other stuff. It was a formative time of my life. And it's not just the crushing on Simon. It was all encompassing for me.
Yeah. Well, if we were to play F, Marry, Kill with the boys of Duran Duran, I know there are 5, but let's just go with it anyway. You'd marry Simon Le Bon still to this day?
I'd marry Simon Le Bon.
Okay. F and Kill.
Okay. F is John Taylor and Kill is Andy Taylor. That's easy.
Why would you kill Andy Taylor?
You know what? He kind of was like ratty to me. He wasn't attractive to me, that's just my own opinion, everyone. A lot of people loved Andy, but when they got to like the Seven and the Ragged Tiger time, so when they're getting now to like 1984, he grew his hair really long and back and it was kind of permed curly, but real short, like take the mullet and then add like 6 inches to it in the back.
Wow.
And I really hated that hairstyle. They all kind of had the mullet idea, even Simon, where it was kind of short over his ears and a little longer on the side, all feathered back.
Right.
But Andy's went way down his back. And I just didn't think he was cute. Like if you put all 5 of them, I definitely thought Nick was cute. Definitely thought Roger, he was appealing for one reason or another. He's a drummer. So that's always, that's always
hot.
cute.
Yep.
That's super hot. But Andy, didn't like him.
Well, Duran Duran's influence on pop culture, absolutely undeniable. But so is yours with your podcast. the Pop Culture Preservation Society. This is a podcast you host with Carolyn and Kristen.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about your podcast's origin story. How did this begin?
Yes, the Pop Culture Preservation Society is our podcast, and we are dedicated to preserving all the little nuggets of our Gen X childhoods, and not just the movies and the music that we liked, but everything from the books we read, the clothes we wore, going to the roller rink. It could
The
be
culture of Gen X.
the culture. Yeah. And so Carolyn, Kristen, and I really have only known each other. I've only known them for 3 years, and it's just amazing to me because now that we're all like sisters. They had known each other a couple years before that, but we're all in the same writing group here in Minneapolis. And so I was the new girl in writing group. And right when I came on board about 3 years ago, Carolyn and Kristen was going to Santa Barbara to see Sean Cassidy in a little concert he was doing. And Carolyn said, well, I want to come. And they were sort of like, okay. And everybody in writing group thought that was so cute that Carolyn was just going to go. Like, I'll just go. Like, I was the new girl in group, so I couldn't say, I want to go.
Right.
But at the same time, knowing, well, these are my people. These are my people. They're going to fly across to see Sean Cassidy. And then over the next few months, and the next year, we were all good friends and we all clicked, but it was never really anything until the summer of 2020. And I'm a freelance writer, and I was writing an article for an online publication on fangirling after 50. And I thought, well, I'm just going to call up Kristen and Carolyn and pick their brains. I know Kristen has this whole my celebrity crush thing, and Carolyn is such a fangirl like I am. And it turned into a hour and a half, 2 hour long Zoom call where we never really talked about the article at all, but we were just talking about all these memories from our childhood, the TV shows we watched, the toys we played with, the food we loved, just the memories. And at the end of that conversation, Carolyn said, you guys, this was so fun. I'm going to start a podcast, and I don't care if anyone listens to it, but I think other people would want to share these memories and they would find joy in that. So this is the pandemic. So what do? You start a podcast, right?
I mean, that's what I did. Yes. Perfect time.
Yeah. And so we basically taught ourselves everything. I mean, we self-produced this. I really wanted to have a really fun social media presence. And so I was really all about the Instagram. And so we have a super fun Instagram page where I post daily Gen X memories. So 7 days a week, you're getting a new Gen X memory, whether it's an Avon perfume pen, or it is the type of, tennis shoe roller skates we wore, or it's, we have Fisher Price Fridays where we celebrate all the Fisher Price toys, the little people, the other stuff we loved. So we started, the Instagram kind of took off. We started our podcast in December of 2020. And you know what? People listened, and very quickly, between the social media, the Instagram page, and our conversations, people just have reached out to us. It's so touching, the people that say thank you for bringing me so much joy in a time, especially during COVID, when they were losing family members, or they could say, oh my gosh, your Barry Manilow episode reminded me so much of being with my grandmother, and I just recently lost her. So this brought me so much joy. Or it could be a picture of something on Instagram that reminds somebody of something from their childhood. I'm having a really tough time right now, but this made me smile today remembering it. And so over the past year and a half, we've just really been fueled by the joy that we've been bringing other people. And people are listening. I mean, we've been able to interview Karen Grassley, who, was Ma Ingalls. She was our Ma in the 70s. And we recently interviewed Melissa Gilbert, who has become friendly with us and, wants to come back on our podcast anytime and loves it. And so she said she's obsessed with our Instagram page. And so it's exceeded our wildest dreams, and we have so much fun. I hope that people listening, we do talk a lot about 70s, but it's all stuff like Lori, you said, you still have memories of that stuff too. So
I do. And it's interesting to me to hear that you guys have only known each other that amount of time, because instantly, from the very first time I listened to you guys, there was a sisterhood, there was a kinship there that seemed to have spanned a really long period of time.
Yeah.
And when you're listening, you feel like you're instantly welcomed into the sorority. You have a seat at the table. It's very welcoming. You guys reminded me of so much that I had forgotten. And it's so nostalgic. It feels so good, especially, we live in really heavy times. But when we look back on the things that gave us so much happiness and joy during a more simpler time in our lives, it's so easy to just reconnect to that. And you guys just have such a genuine love of the toys, the culture, the music, the TV, the films, everything, the books, And it's just so fun to revisit that because
Yeah.
not everyone was into the same thing. I can talk to this friend about this thing and I can talk to that friend about that thing, but like maybe they didn't really have a love of the facts of life the way I did.
Right.
And your podcast, like it has something for everyone. I
Yeah.
love it. It's such a good time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. And I think one of the things that means the most to us too is when people do say, I feel like you guys are my friends. I feel like you guys are my
Yes.
girlfriends, because we feel that way too. And I know that that's hard sometimes for people to understand, but we've done a few Zooms with like our Patreon supporters, and they say that they're like, I feel like I know you guys. Like, I feel like when I'm listening, I'm talking back to my radio or to whatever device I'm listening on, because I want to take part in the conversation with you. And as weird as it sounds to the people on the other side of the device, we actually feel that way too.
Yes.
We want you to feel like you're a part of our conversation. So that actually means a lot to us. We're like soul sisters. And that's, one thing that makes our podcast and our whole society makes it work so well is that the three of us, we had this instant connection and we work so well together that it is almost like I say they're my sister work wives, because I think of them like sisters for sure. I never thought it would be possible to meet friends that I could be this close to and have this kind of a friendship with in my 50s. So it's been a really cool ride.
What a blessing. I mean, that's a huge gift. And it's so inspirational too, because you think like your friends are your friends and we all evolve. We're all becoming empty nesters. And
I know
it's a weird transitionary time. And so not only are you establishing this new and amazing and strong friendship, but you actually embarked on a creative endeavor together and it's working and people are responding to it. And that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's a blast.
Wow.
It's the most fulfilling thing that we've done. And the three of us have all done some pretty cool stuff in our like careers. And all three of us agree this is the most fulfilling.
And you know what? It comes across on the pod.
Oh, thank you.
The genuine love for this, it's there. It's so evident.
Thank you.
So you guys, you're wrapping up season 5 recording, correct?
We're finishing recording season 5,
Okay.
which it's about to launch. So
Yay!
season 5 is launching soon with the Carpenters episode, a big
my God.
2-parter. You can't contain the Carpenters.
I was
into
going to
one
say, if
episode.
anyone deserves a 2-parter, it's the Carpenters.
Mm-hmm. You asked me earlier, who is on my rotation every single day? The Carpenters. I hear a Carpenter song in my life somehow every single day.
Well, then that makes for a really good day.
Yeah, it does.
I love the Carpenters. So what can we look forward to in season 5? Can you give us any like sneak peeks?
I'll give you a
Am I
few
allowed
sneak
to
peeks. Sure, yeah.
ask?
So
Okay.
season 5 is kicking off with the Carpenters. We have May 10th, Melissa Gilbert's new book called Back to the Prairie, which
Hells
is
yeah.
amazing book. Highly recommend it. We are going to have an episode where we talk to her for a long time about the book and about some other fun. We have a fun little surprise for her at the end, a little Gen X
Okay.
surprise that our listeners are going to love. We have an episode all about the wonderful world of Disney. So if you remember watching that show, sometimes it was Sunday nights for some of us, Saturday nights for others. And then just the Disney movies we all grew up loving.
Oh, fun.
We have an episode about 17 magazine, just a deep dive into what
Yes.
it taught us and the ads and the regular articles. And I'll give you one more. Let's see. We have an episode. Actually, it's turned into a 2-parter.
Okay.
It might even be a 3-parter, all about those made for TV movies. The Boy in the
So
Plastic
good.
Bubble, Champions,
Yes.
a Love Story. There's something about Amelia, the best little girl in the world, The Burning Bed, all of those kind of outlandish. So we have one episode where we're just doing a big talk about it. And then we have another episode where we break down the top 10 list as given to us by our society members on Instagram. So we sort of let them vote and then we compiled a list of the top 10. So that's really fun.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Yeah. And then there's more too. I'm just not going to give away the whole season.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you so much for joining me, Michelle.
This is a blast.
It's such a blast, but I'm not quite done with you yet. I have to ask you some lightning round questions.
Oh, that Simon Le Bon was going to walk in my door. I was looking behind me oh my God, Laura, you didn't do it, did you?
Yes, I hired him. He's at your door. No, I have some lightning round questions.
I love games. I love stuff like
All
this.
right.
I'm so excited. Okay.
Pearl Jam or Nirvana?
I wasn't into either. Sorry. But if I had to pick, I'd say Nirvana. I know I was an 80s pop girl. Okay.
Wow.
I feel like they're more 90s too, but
I mean, they were.
Oh, well, I was married. And so
life just stopped after that.
understand that I graduated college in 91. I got married in 93. So
I'll let that go because, how I came into this Duran Duran episode, like so ill-informed. Like
that's true.
It's fair.
That's
like it's
true.
a
We're
trade-off,
representing,
right?
you know what? But look at us. We're very well-rounded here.
Yes,
We're both representing.
like the whole of Gen
Yeah,
X.
just stick with us. Yeah.
Yes. Between the two of us, we got you covered, you guys.
We're like the spokesgirls for Gen X.
Yes. Okay. Best fast food fries.
Oh, McDonald's.
Oh, 100%. I agree. Okay. Again, this is kind of a 90s reference. If we have to go 80s on this one, we can.
Okay.
Favorite 90s fragrance?
That would be Beautiful.
Oh, good one.
I think it was Estee Lauder.
Mm-hmm.
And my 80s was Anais.
Yes. My mom loved it. My mom wore it every day. Yep. Okay. Did you ever own a bucket hat?
Oh, absolutely. It said SeaWorld on it. It was when I was in high school.
So you wore it outside of SeaWorld?
Oh, 100%.
Like
yes.
as a fashion statement?
Yes, I did. It was white and it
Okay.
had a little SeaWorld because my pom line had been to SeaWorld. And so we got them, but we wore them at school. We wore them to the mall. We wore them. I graduated high school in 1987. So this would have been in 1987. And then I went to college in 88 and I'm sure I still rocked my SeaWorld bucket hat.
Okay. This is a 90s reference also.
Okay.
Brandon or Dylan? 90210.
I was watching that in college, I believe. But if I had to pick Brandon or Dylan, oh God, that's tough because I'm a good girl. So my good girl side would say Brandon, but Dylan had that dangerous. So I'm going to stick with Dylan. I'm going Dylan.
God. All right. I like it. What was your first car?
Toyota Tercel, a little baby blue Toyota Tercel, but I didn't get that until I was in college.
I bought a Toyota Tercel in college as well.
Did you?
I did. It had very, very thin tires.
Yes. I was about to say the tires were like from my Fisher Price cars.
Bicycle tires on a car.
Basically. Yeah.
Super weird. Okay. Were you a latchkey kid?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
A lot. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was your favorite after school snack of choice? I know you guys have talked about this a
A little bit. Yeah. I'm going to go with some sort of chip. I think I'm going to go with the OG taco flavored Doritos.
A classic.
Mm-hmm.
Film that traumatized you most as a kid?
I think I'm going to say Porky's because I think I watched that way too young and I was like eyes as wide as saucers.
So I have kind of a roundabout conversation about Porky's on the episode I did with Trish from Gen X Voice. It was an episode on A Christmas Story. She was traumatized.
Naturally, Christmas Stories takes you to Porky's. I just watched it probably way too young.
Yes.
And we'll just never forget the scene in the locker room where then is it Beulah? She comes and she grabs his and she pulls.
Oh my God. Okay. First concert. This was Duran Duran.
It was
like
Duran
your first
Duran.
big one?
Mhm.
Okay.
It was my first concert. Yep.
This last question is for me, selfishly.
Okay.
What is your favorite Elton John song?
Oh, that's really hard. I think Daniel is the song actually Daniel?
Yeah,
Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, good one. Good pick.
Mm-hmm. That song just like for some reason it breaks my heart when I hear it. It's one of those bittersweet songs for me. I get like a choked up feeling.
Yep.
And I don't even, you know what, if I'm being totally honest with you right now, I'm going to try to go through the lyrics in my head and I'm not even sure if it is a sad song, but that when that song comes on a playlist of mine, I almost get like a choked up feeling and in a good way. It's like a beautiful, beautiful song.
It is.
But man, you can't go wrong. Greatest Hits is one I have on vinyl that I love.
I love him so much. I knew that you would be a fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I knew that we would connect in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me.
This was so fun.
Oh my gosh. Your knowledge and your emotion tied to Duran Duran was exactly what we needed to carry this episode because it wasn't going to come from me, girl.
Well, here's the big question, Lori. Finishing this episode now, do you feel a little bit more interested in Duran Duran?
I am. I'm behind the curve, but like I can catch up. I can get there.
It's not too late for you.
Well, I have homework to do. I'm going to do that. And I need to watch the video for Chauffeur.
Yes. Tell me what you think. Yeah.
I absolutely will. Gen Xers, thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to rate and subscribe if you're enjoying the pod so you never miss an episode. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/the Untitled GenX Podcast. You can find us on the web at the UntitledGenXPodcast.com and on all the socials. We hope you keep in touch, beautiful people. Bye.